Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? Welcome back to another episode. I am so happy to have you guys here. So today we are talking about a pretty interesting topic, and I have a wonderful person here to share this topic with me here today. Her name is Karmen Placencia. She is a licensed massage therapist, yoga teacher, wellness coach, and mother to a teenage son. Welcome, Karmen.
Thank you. Such an honor to be here on your show and the awakening journey. That I enjoy your podcast and all of your Facebook posts are so inspirational. So it's an honor really to be here speaking on this topic.
Aw, thank you so much. That's so sweet. This topic, it's interesting because this is not something that I've ever really touched on myself. And I was kind of waiting for the right person. And you seem to be it. You seem to have this kind of an experience that you want to share. And it's something that I feel is really healing. And I think it's a part of your healing journey too. So I'm really happy to be a part of that and to also share that with everyone that's listening today. So I feel it's appropriate to start off with just a definition of a narcissist. We'll kind of start there and go from that. What is your definition?
Okay, so I want to cite exactly the correct definition by WebMD, and because I have my own, obviously my own definition we can get into when we.
Oh, for sure. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
But the WebMD definition is people with narcissistic personality disorder generally believe that they are better than others. They don't simply have high self-esteem, but actively believe that they are more important than other people and should be treated that way. Many people with this disorder react badly to criticism or events they dislike. Manipulation. If you have NPD, you're more likely to try to take advantage of people by manipulating them. You may have an overly emotional response if you don't receive the attention you feel you deserve. You may also overreact to situations to keep people focused on you. If you don't receive the attention you feel you deserve, you may overreact. And other symptoms of NPD is arrogance, envy, expectation for praise, expectation of favors, fantasies of power or success, no acknowledgement of others' successes. And it's also a cluster B disorder. And the cluster B disorder involve unpredictable, dramatic, or intensely emotional response to things. The four main cluster B disorders are antisocial, borderline, histrionic, and narcissistic. So there's pretty much different levels of narcissism, which I wanted to also get into because it's a personality disorder, but like, you know, there's a spectrum of it. So there might be like people that are higher on the spectrum, which would be like antisocial, and then there's people like lower on the spectrum because, you know, nowadays we live in a society where everybody's a little bit narcissistic because we are in survival mode. We live in this society where everybody has
tendencies. Yeah.
Right. So there's a little bit of narcissism here, but you know, most people can actually have empathy for others and acknowledge their successes or acknowledge their opinions and their feelings, these kind of things. And narcissists don't have that ability. It's actually, I think it's a temporal lobe and a frontal lobe, kind of like a brain damage.
Yeah. And I mean, what has been your experience with these types of people in your life?
So I've had experience relationships, very close, unfortunately, relationships, meaning I'm not going to get too deep into it, just out of respect. But meaning it could be within close-knit family. It could be your husband, brother, sister, mother, father, uncle, cousins, whatever. It's within the, you know, close-knit family I've experienced. Narcissistic abuse in particular. And narcissistic abuse is what narcissists do. They emotionally abuse and terrorize people. Yeah. And so narcissistic abuse is something that when you experience it, it actually feels like you were just punched, or, you know, it just feels like you're being ripped, you know, apart from the inside. And it's extremely painful. It's not something like, oh, you experience just talking to somebody, you know, oh, you just meet somebody at the grocery store or somebody at the yoga studio and you're like, oh, that's a narcissist. You don't really know narcissistic abuse unless you're in more of like a relationship with that person,
Right.
meaning like a friendship or brother, sister, somebody that's close to you, a husband, something like that, that you're in a relationship with, and you're constantly like being like a bulldozed, your feelings are being bulldozed over. And then, like I said, there's other, it can get really abusive when people just continue to want to hurt you and pull you down. And one of the main, like they said, one of the main problems is the manipulation, right? Manipulating you and manipulating others. And one of the main tactics of the manipulation is called gaslighting. So we're going to get into what gaslighting is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that's a term that it has been used. Like I've heard it, and I'm not very familiar with it because it's not something that I've personally have been involved in. So I'm very curious.
You're very lucky. You're very lucky.
I guess I've just protected myself enough. Like I'm that sensitive empath that I run and avoid. I'm great at that. That's something I've definitely worked on in my life. But for those out there that have experienced it, what are some telltale signs that they are being gaslighted? Like, what is the definition of gaslighting to you?
Well, gaslighting is a form of manipulation where they just turn if it's not your fault, like something happened, let's, for example, something spilled and they spilled the drink, but they're going to blame it on you. Oh, you said that and it made me spill the drink. And so you feel guilty for something that they did. And so they shift the blame, they shift the emotion. So they're always right, and they can never be wrong, onto other people, and especially the person in the spotlight in the relationship. And so, for example, when you have a gaslighting situation as an empath, which I am, which I didn't realize, you have a lot of shame and guilt because you've been gaslighted. And so in a way, somebody manipulated you into thinking this was your fault. But then once you maybe slow down, go to therapy about it, because you feel this shame, this guilt, and that these toxic emotions, but these toxic emotions don't even belong to you. They're from the narcissist. And so you have to literally like go there, talk about it, let it out, shift through all the shit, literally. Yeah. and determine, wait, this isn't my fault. This actually, I'm being lit.
Yeah.
or I'm being gaslighted. And so very nice people, sweet people, empathic people, for example, that's why we're empaths attract narcissists in a way, because they see, oh, they're really nice people and they're empathic and they're going to care about my feelings, so I can just dump it on them, right? So just dump their stuff, because they don't want to look at their shadow or do their own shadow work. So they're gonna just shift it onto somebody else.
That's interesting. That as you were describing it, a thought popped in my head. I'm like, I realized that has happened to me, and I just didn't realize what it was, honestly. And I think a lot of our listeners could even relate to that. It's a simple example of spilling the water, but it's a really powerful, because it's something that's so simple and you wouldn't think that is a bad thing, but it's compounded over time. That is where the effect comes in. That is where you then can really feel the impact of all of these little things that you think that you've caused. And I can see how that can cause a lot of shame and a lot of guilt in your life. And that's something, it's interesting because the beliefs that I have in the background coming through right now, I have these things dropping in all the time, these messages. The one thing is that I feel personally that empaths attract narcissists, because in a deeper sense, the narcissist knows that the empath can heal them. On an outwardly kind of way, they don't see it at all. They can't acknowledge it because consciously they're not there. They're not ready to heal. That's why they're so dropped into their persona, I guess you could say, right? So they dropped in, but on the deeper sense, that's why they are so attracted, because they want to be healed. They want that love. They just consciously don't know how to accept it. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. That's definitely something that I was dealing with actually in my 20s. I would attract a lot of narcissists or a lot of broken people. And although I had I'm very empathic my whole life. I've realized that I was an empath even as a small child, picking up and absorbing other people's energies and not really knowing. That's why I fell in love so much with yoga when I was 24, is because I finally found some tools to help me with my empathic abilities. And so empathic abilities are beautiful and they're great. You're more sensitive to other people's feelings. You can feel other people's emotions. You can actually, it's a great, it's very important as a healer to have, empathic abilities, but you do attract a lot of people who want healing, but they don't know they want healing. So it's like conscious thing. And so in my 20s, I was like, oh, they like me, they love me, they around me. And, in a way, it's kind of like you're still in your ego too, and learning how
to at that age.
It's like, oh, they like me, and so all of a sudden it was like it was like a swarm, and I was also dealing.
Sorry, you just want to be accepted too, right? Like at that age.
Yeah, it's just normal, and you like attention from, from people or whatnot, but at the end of the day, at the core of it is healing, and the empath wants to help, and the narcissist needs their help for whatever reason, and so it's a magnet, and the empath likes to give, and the narcissist likes to take. So it's a perfect attraction. It's perfect magnetism, but it's a very dangerous and deadly magnetism as well. So I think in particular, if there's anything that I would like to really get out there into the world, is to more education on this, more education on gaslighting, on empaths and narcissism. And even if you're listening to this as an empath or a narcissist, there's healing on both sides that need to happen, because when I was attracting narcissists, I realized that, in my 30s, when I started to realize this, I started getting therapy and more information started coming out that I was empathic and a highly sensitive person and all this. I started to learn coping methods and also boundaries. And there's so much more information that you need to know as well. And there's amazing support out there that you can get to help you navigate it.
So how would you say that this shaped your perspective of people in general after this experience you had? Do you feel like you were more guarded?
I used to be like full on, in my 20s, like love and light, everybody's love, everybody's light. I love everybody. Woo. And then now I'm just more reserved, and I observe, I take a couple steps back before I, move into partnerships or relationships. And it's not that I'm not going to not be attracted to narcissists, because I still may, be attracted to narcissists, but I will take it very slow, and I will be more level-headed about it. And
you'll be aware of it, right? And that's the thing too, is that I think honestly, the best thing you could ever do for yourself is become more aware of all of these things in your life, right? And just see them. Like, you don't even have to do anything about it. It's just to be aware of it. Then you'll naturally just think of things to come out to do something about it, right? Like those are things that are just dropping in.
No, awareness is key, and that changed the ball game for me.
Yeah.
Just even reading about empaths, reading about narcissism, and also going to I had a psychotherapist and receiving the support that I needed from a professional, somebody who had studied this and was a professional, was validating for me, and it would help me it helps you sort things out too. And I learned also, most importantly, is I was just talking to this with a friend today, is how to stand up for myself and say no. I was just
boundaries.
Yes. And be nice. And, we're taught, don't be rude, be nice. And so this sweet little girl with the bows always, yay. Really, balancing my own light and shadow, and knowing that no, and having that voice, finding my voice when something doesn't feel right, saying, no, this isn't going to work for me,
Yeah. I can just see you with the little bow on her head. So
I was
cute.
so cute with the bow.
Yeah. But that's the thing too, is just knowing the signs and knowing what you're getting into. It's so subtle too. So what would you say are some of the red flags to kind of keep an eye out for, to be more aware, to raise your awareness? What would you say that was?
Well, red flags definitely is somebody not acknowledging your feelings. Number one, like you
Mm,
don't exist, your feelings
mhm.
don't exist, your opinions don't exist. Even a lot of people were raised by narcissistic, maybe a mother, narcissistic father, maybe even both, and their own feelings and opinions were never acknowledged, and that is a deep, deep, deep wound, because
Yeah.
unfortunately sometimes what ends up happening with having narcissistic parents is that we ourselves can become narcissistic, because it's a
Mhm.
pattern that that we saw growing up, and then we become that pattern. And so the only way that the pattern can be broken is by, like you said, awareness, acknowledging that I'm not acknowledging somebody else's feelings, I'm not acknowledging somebody else's opinions, somebody else's views,
Yeah.
as a different human being than me, right?
Yeah.
And so this happens a lot, because everybody's a different universe. Not everybody's going to think the same, not everybody's going to act the same, and not everybody's going to want to do the same. That's what makes the world go round, is everybody being unique. And
Yeah.
so I think the
Yeah.
the main first flag is when somebody's just bulldozing over your feelings like they don't exist.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, to be honest, I think the signs are kind of there. It's just how diluted are your thoughts, or not diluted, I would say, how, what blinders do you have on? Because blinders are things like love. Like you can put the colored glasses on and not see the red flags until after you're out of the situation. And then you can look back, you're like, oh, they were all there the whole time. But
Mhm.
to be honest, I feel that if you have those rose colored glasses on, it's because there is something in there for you. There's a learning, there's an expansion, there's a growth. And that's why you wear those glasses, is because you have to honestly get hurt. It is your, this is on your soul
It's your
contract.
awakening.
This
Yeah.
is it. Hurting is growing. Growth is pain. And as much and as uncomfortable as that is, and as how, just as painful as it can be, it's actually for your better good. So I that then comes around to the question, like, if it wasn't for your relationship, do you feel that you would be where you are now?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that. Somebody else recently told me, oh, well, this really positive situation is
Hmm.
that somebody married somebody and they made all this money, and partner was good for them to make money because they kept them really motivated and disciplined, and so the person was like, oh, well, that's what they needed, to be
Yeah.
so successful. And in a way, I've thought like my own relationship with the narcissist really allowed me to go really deep inward and heal. And that's why I feel I've been successful as a yoga teacher, massage therapist, because I've become not only more aware, I can help others, and I have actually more awareness around healing, around meditation, and because I was healing my own self, and so
Yeah.
I was in this deep, deep wound and pain. And when I would meditate, or when I would go to healings or shamans or whatever I would do, I
Hmm.
would actually feel it from a really deep level, what that healing would do,
Yeah.
or what this word would do to me in my pain, or what this healing or what this massage would do to me in my pain and to my wounds. And so for me, it was actually, I feel like it made me a better healer. I'm a better massage therapist, a better yoga teacher, more in touch with my body. I could feel, certain things can lift my vibration, and certain things, so it made me more sensitive,
Yeah.
even as a sensitive person, in the work that I do.
Well, I guess like that's the thing too, is from my own personal experience, is that you can't help somebody where you haven't been yourself, right? And that's why we attract these people, because there's healing that you've just gone through that they subconsciously, on this like deep level, know about, because you're vibrating at that, like you're pushing that that sign out that you can help them without even having to verbally tell them that, because it's just this energy attraction. But that's the thing, is like, you are going to have to go through these pains because there's people right behind you coming to learn from you, right? And that's just what this path is. That's where we're all going through these things to help one another. It's like this picture, I can just see it now, like when hand going down a hill, if you're helping somebody up, right? Like we're all there helping each other up this big mountain, trying to get to the top, right? And you just got to go offer that one hand down, because you know what that pain is like. So you can finally have, like, they can have that spot where it's safe for them to feel the pain. Because that's another thing for narcissists, I feel, is that narcissists are afraid to feel the pain because they've never ever gone that deep, right? It's always
they run from feeling the pain.
They're master avoiders.
There's just layers and layers of just band-aids around their own wounds.
You know what they need? A big hug. They just need a big hug and say, I love you, looking straight into their eyes. And it's like as if this magical thing, I know, I think of like unicorns and rainbows when I think of this, and it's not reality. Reality is there's some work to be done, right? But that's where the work starts, is somebody genuinely loving them, even though, regardless of this pain that they're inflicting on other people. Like, imagine the pain that they have inside, because they have to be totally shut down from this pain in order to inflict it onto others. Because if you inflict pain onto others, you are so disconnected. You can't feel that pain. If you felt that pain, you wouldn't do it. Bottom line, right? So, and these are all just things, again, just coming in, and, and I feel that this is the message that needs to be shared. And this is this time with you and me sitting here with this conversation that we're having. It's just a beautiful thing.
It's important to have these conversations. And I mean, it's one of these situations where, it's so painful to have something switched on you. Like it just like, hey, you did the crime, or, and you didn't do the crime. You didn't, you're quite the opposite, of whatever the crime that you're saying
that glass that you spilled. Yeah.
Right. So for a lot of these experiences that people aren't aware, and they're just in this pain and this shame and this guilt, and they don't need to be there. They need to be standing up for themselves, finding their core chakra, your third chakra, finding your power, healing your voice, speaking your truth. This was not me. This was you. And that's how they actually heal. Yeah. They do need a hug, but actually they really need to, it'll persist. The problem persists if you don't stand up to it. If you're not called out. And so a lot of them, masking alcoholism, drug abuse, sex addiction, all these other things that just mask, can just run around money, making all this money, or money's just being driven into their bank account, so they don't have to heal it. They can just run around. But they're actually very dangerous people, and they're running around with like a knife to wound people at the end of it, and so, and it's being disguised in party or fun or this and that. And so there's a lot of just innocent people and that are victims of narcissism. And this is like the new thing. This is, we can't just go out and wound people or shoot people. Obviously you're going to go to jail. Right. This whole, it's like non-kinetic warfare, this whole underlying kind of subliminal warfare that's happening is the new warfare is narcissism, shifting the blame and manipulate, lying. They're pathological liars. They'll say, oh, this person did that when that never happened. And then another, on the spectrum, higher level of spectrum, they actually believe those lies. And when they believe it, other people believe it because they see that they believe it. So it's extremely dangerous. These are very dangerous people, and they have to be called out in their tracks. And not only that, one of the things that hurt me,
shake them, right? Like that shakes them, give them that moment of like, hello.
Well, it's crazy because they're smart enough, they're manipulative enough to be in society. and they're,
They've made it this far. Yeah.
they're upholding citizens of society, or they have some way of staying in society and not going to jail and not having that criminal record for whatever reason, paying people off or however they got away with it. But it's actually criminal behavior that's happening, pathological lying and making up stories about other people to make them, an innocent person, look bad. I mean, these are dangerous people, and they can ruin other people's lives.
Yeah. So just being aware, like again, it comes back to that awareness and knowing the tools, like understanding, like if you in this situation, there is resources out there. There are things that you can turn to better yourself, to heal those inner wounds that you have. So what would you say are some tools? You mentioned psychotherapy and yoga, and is there anything else that would be beneficial for this?
It's funny because I was always, as a yoga teacher, ahimsa, nonviolence and peace and love. And when I got into my 30s, what actually helped me the most is actually having legal help. There's laws against this kind of stuff, defamation, slander. This kind of, these laws are there to protect, the citizens. And, I wasn't like suing and all this stuff. It is tiring, but if you can seek a legal advice just to see what if something really, illegal is happening, that's really affecting your business, that's affecting your reputation, it's affecting your children, your children are unsafe. If you might be married and having to co-parent with somebody, this is also dangerous for your children to be exposed to this type of behavior as well. And so I think that, finding proper psychotherapy, or psychiatrist, or whatever it is in the mental health field that can help you cope. I teach yoga. Yoga and meditation for me was key. I could say that I spiritually bypassed, I could spiritually bypass using it, but I needed to spiritually bypass. And it's like it's meditation and yoga, these things, when you feel euphoric when you finish. So it's like a drug, but it's a natural drug and it's healthy for you. So it's a good alternative to drugs and alcohol, right?
Yeah, so that's just it.
It's a coping method. So that's one thing that I teach, and I'm very an advocate of having a discipline, a spiritual discipline that helps you get through hard times, whether it be your religion or however you feel you can connect with God and have those feelings of euphoria and those feelings of, lifting your spirits back up again, naturally, with no synthetics or whatnot. And so yoga, meditation, finding proper, legal advice, proper mental health counseling and support.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just it. It's just knowing how hurt it is and where the pain is. And sometimes pain is just so big and you've never been taught how to deal with it, that it's almost like, where do you start? Right. And that it's just basically just start where you are, right? Start where whatever is calling out to you the most right now. Just know that this is a big stone that can be chiseled down into little pebbles and little stones, and you can break it down and not have to carry it so much, right? And how is it for you chipping away at your big stone? Like how has it been on your path from when you started till now?
Well, there was a lot of bypassing, for some years, not understanding that it wasn't even really my fault. It's just because I didn't have the understanding and the awareness of even the terminology that I shared with you guys today. So I think starting off with, if you're listening to this, I wish I would have had this, in the beginning. And I think that the more that we educate ourselves, read about it, I got books. And I really started to understand the pathology and understand the red flags, and also begin to really find support. Like I said, find the proper support that you need to help you stand up against these behaviors, and against the abuse. I did Melanie Evans. I'd like to just give her a little shout out here if
Yeah.
nobody's ever heard of her. And her name is, let me see if I can have it right here. It's Melanie Tonya Evans, and she's on Facebook. Probably can find her website, Tonya Evans. And it's called You Weren't Meant to Just Survive Abuse, You Were Meant to Thrive.
Mhm.
And she has an amazing narcissistic abuse and recovery program.
Beautiful.
She's all about thriving after, and I've followed her work. I didn't do her program, but I highly recommend her program and her work, because this definitely gave me an understanding, a deeper understanding of what really I went through.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that there are those resources out there. There's so many resources, and it's just finding the one that you resonate, you connect with, because that's important too, is that if you don't connect with the message or the messenger, then it's going to be really hard to receive the healing. Right. So just know that there's so many out there, and you can just keep looking.
I love the quote, your mess is your message. I love that quote.
Actually, that is beautiful. Yeah, that's so true. That's all true right there. Yeah. So I want to know,
like, hey, your mess is your message, and just shift it and make it to help others, to better yourself. And that's what it's all about. The Phoenix rising, right? Just rise from your own ashes.
Right from the ash. That's beautiful. I love it. So what would you say you've learned about yourself through this whole challenge, this whole growth period that you had? What are some takeaways?
Right. Well, strength, a lot of I learned so much about the amount of strength. I learned about my voice and the power of communication. Okay. I never realized the power of communication. I was just going through life thinking, oh, everything's energy and good, and people understand me. Or no, you have to you articulate your feelings and your voice. And I think that for me, more than anything, my relationship, this relationship brought me a voice to be able to speak my truth, my feelings, know that I have my own opinions, that I have my own voice, that I have my own feelings, and I respecting myself. That's right.
Big. Yeah, that's huge. It's just knowing where you stand, and it can be so empowering to then look back at your journey. It's like, I survived that. I went through hell, and I didn't think it was going to work out, right? Like, you almost get to that point, you're like, I don't know if I can go on anymore, but you did.
Yeah, I mean, the hell was also heaven for me too, because I really dove into I feel that anybody going through hard things really we have this available to us now. I mean, these Eastern teachings have been brought to the West, yoga and meditation and sound healing. And there's, shaman work as well that's available to us now, that is all about self-healing, self-love. And I think this is really, in this life, can you imagine that in this life is about self-healing and self-love? It's not about acquiring all these material things and finding your husband or this and that. Like, for me, it's been, I mean, yes, we were all programmed watching the Disney movies and finding our prince, and that would be great and beautiful. But, in this life, I've had to accept that for me, it's about self-love and self-healing and healing, self-healing and healing others. And so I service to others as well. So this is really my path, and where I really feel bliss. I feel my bliss. My sweet spot where I tap into, this is, why I'm here. This is my mission. And that feels good,
Purpose is powerful, for sure. So what would you give advice to that one person that's in that relationship right now, that's really stuck and does not know how to get out of it, or where to turn? What is that piece of advice that you would give to that person?
I would definitely tell that person, first off, you can contact me.
Yeah.
YogaMassageWellness.com.
It'll be in the show notes if you need to find it. Yep.
I will be happy to help you navigate through whatever part you are in, properly navigate you and send you to the right people too. And give you the resources that you need to navigate through these hard times, and just do as much, self-reflection and educating yourself on narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah.
And books, there's a lot of literature out there right now available as well. So just educate yourself, remember your self-worth. You're going to go through a deep healing of your own self. And that's really what the light is at the end of the tunnel, is healing yourself, because we can't control other people. They can never decide never to heal. And you have to completely let go of control over others and focus on yourself.
That's powerful. I love it. That is beautiful. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for offering to come on to the show and talk about this touchy subject, because it's a lot of people are afraid to tackle this. And for a while, I'll admit I was afraid to too, because I just didn't know what angle to come at it. So I'm really happy that I met you. I'm really happy that we were able to create this collaboration together and bring this message forward, and to, who knows what kind of healing that this is going to bring to everybody. I just got chills, by the way. So there's going to be some healing for sure.
Mhm.
But yes, I just want to say thank you so much, Karmen, for coming on and being here and sharing your message. And is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we go?
No, it's an honor to be here on your show, your podcast, and it's on Spotify. And I think that what you're doing is amazing, and we're all here on this planet to awaken and to heal, and you're doing an amazing job. So thank you for having me. And if I can support anyone, I'm here for you as well.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, and you have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank you. Happy solstice, super
Happy
moon.
solstice.